Good morning, Bear Nation. Did you ever know that you were my hero? You are everything that I wish I could be. I can fly higher than an eagle because you, Patrick, and Alex are the wind beneath my wings. This is an awesome drawing of me that my son did because he's awesome too. Burning Hearth Homestead, Blood and Guts RN. Lovely. Shalom, everybody. Shalom, shalom, shalom. For those of y'all who are new to the channel, shalom means, what's up? Welcome. My peace be upon you. It's like aloha, but in Hebrew. All right, let's get into this thing. Thank y'all for being here. 87,000 people at the channel now. Y'all be crazy. Y'all probably all been dropped on your heads. That's a shame. I love you anyway, but you should probably get that looked at. The entirety of this report is on patreon.com. Just go to Patreon, look for the bear logo, do the things. You'll find it there. The whole report. And please be sure to feed the dance monkeys at intel@bearindependent.com. Intel@bearindependent.com. There are how many A's? Precisely 0 A's in the word independent. Roger that. And we're up over 100 so we can kick the show off. 12 May, Bear Independent Intel Report Overview. The number of confirmed cases worldwide and in the United States continues to climb. As of the time of this reporting, the official numbers are as follows. Many of you are probably wondering, where in the HE double hockey sticks is Bear right now? Bear's at his office. Why is Bear at his office? Because I don't need anybody's permission to exist and I have mouths to feed. So we're going to feed them. We're going to do that by selling awesome products that save lives. Global cases, 4.25 million, 4,250,251, with 2.5 million of those being active cases. So, interestingly, if you add up all the active cases and the global deaths and the global recoveries, I don't think it quite adds up to the global cases. But anyway, I could be mathing wrong. Global deaths are 286,951, and global recoveries are 1.5 kajillion. That's with a kajillion. No, it's 1.5 million. U.S. cases are 1,384,681. Now, of those, just over 1 million are active. 1,042,000, which is actually a reduced number. I have been waiting for the day where I could say, hey, these numbers are starting to go down. Now, this is a single data point. That doesn't mean that, hey, numbers are on the downswing. Simmer down, folks. But it does mean that we have thus far, a single data point showing that, hey, the number of active cases are going down. That's awesome. U.S. deaths are 81,724, as stated previously and repeatedly at this channel. If you have a cough when you come into the ER with a gunshot wound and you die, they're going to report COVID-like symptoms, and then you dying of that gunshot wound in the ER very likely will be reported as a COVID death or a COVID-related death. And it seems to me that the reasoning for that is there has been a lot of federal funding that has been allocated to the treatment of COVID-19, to these hospitals that are dealing with COVID-19, that aren't dealing with anything else because they've all been shut down to deal with COVID-19. So if you come in, somebody like done stuck a knife in your kidney and you're like limping and bleeding to death and you're like, ha! And they're like, COVID! Hey, put that guy in a ventilator. That'll give us $30,000 from the government. Yeah, U.S. deaths, 81,724. U.S. cases, 1,384,000. I believe that the actual number of cases is significantly higher, perhaps an order of magnitude higher than that. And I think the number of deaths are actually significantly lower because of the underreporting of cases and overreporting of deaths. But I digress. U.S. recoveries are 260,400. Okay, now getting into the body of the report, you may notice that behind me on this whiteboard is some words. That's usually what you put on whiteboards, although occasionally you do have awesome drawings. But these words here say threat matrix, and then the 7 things that we track, or we ought to be tracking daily: economic collapse, food scarcity, civil unrest, tyranny/elections, war, misinformation, and Rome is burning. And then up top, I've got the United States government, civilians, you, me, us, the system, China, and other. There's a lot of X's in the U.S. government department and in the system department, and a considerable number in the China department. I'll be doing a breakout video on this later. Y'all will see it. But yeah, here we go. Body of the report. The Chinese government has threatened to slap a tariff of up to 80% on Australian barley producers if they do not respond to an anti-dumping investigation in 10 days, alleging that Australian farmers produced barley at a lower than normal price between 2014 and 2016. Australian officials have made it clear that this is retaliation for the call for an investigation into the origins of the virus. So back it up a hot minute. China is pissed at Australia, saying, hey, you guys sold us barley. You had too much barley, so you dumped some of it to decrease the supply, which drove the price up because the demand stayed the same. So because of that, we're going to throw a tariff on your barley producers up to 80%, because we don't like that. Australia is saying the reason you don't like that is because we called you out on your bluff of all this BS and bad reporting that came out of Wuhan, China. And so yeah, it's a tit for tat. What does all of this mean? Well, Whiskey Alpha Romeo, for sure, war, as well as this is another signifier of economic collapse. Just one more thing. The Chinese Navy has become more active in the Indian Ocean and the Middle East. Recent satellite images indicate that China is continuing work at a supporting naval base on the Horn of Africa despite the pandemic. Why would you want a naval base in Africa if you're China? Well, the whole reason AFRICOM even exists is because of China, because there are a lot of resources and a lot of desperate people in Africa. Africa is a whole freaking continent, man. There's a lot of stuff there. The Chinese, as we know, have a lot of people, and they're diversifying. It's smart business. You don't put all your eggs in one basket. So they have their domestic basket and they have their foreign baskets, part of which includes the United States, businesses and land masses in the United States. And they're doing the same thing in Africa. Well, if you have the resources there, you don't want to be at the mercy of somebody else to get them out of Africa and back to your homeland. Thus, you need a naval base. And so if you, especially with tensions rising around the world, if you're going to be sending cargo ships and tankers out of Africa up to China, you need to what? Control the South China Sea, which they are actively working on. You need to also have a military presence in the area so that people don't, I don't know, quarantine your ships, put up a naval blockade, so forth and so on. Or never underestimate the power of air superiority. This is when a lot of, the Boogaloo boys are like, I can't wait for the apocalypse. Have you ever seen what air superiority can do? You can wait, because forward-looking infrared and a 30 millimeter depleted uranium round, the words, Bear, they're the best. Forward-looking infrared and a 30 millimeter depleted uranium round don't care about your level 4 ceramic plates at 3 o'clock in the morning while you're on post, or you're running through the dense underbrush. You don't want none of that. Nobody wants none of that, okay? A bipartisan group of U.S. Congress members has blasted China for threatening economic retaliation. Again, the China column's pretty full too here. Have blasted China for threatening economic retaliation against Australia in a letter, getting back to our first point, saying that China had made deeply disturbing threats to punish Australia for seeking an international inquiry into the origins of COVID-19. One member wrote, quote, "No matter the external pressure or coercion, we will always have Australia's back, just as Australia has always had ours," end quote. Now, Oz, y'all are cool, and I certainly don't want y'all getting into a global war with China, but given this tit for tat, it's going on right now, and we have ships in the South China Sea. A lot of people have ships in the South China Sea right now. Us, the Australians, I think the British do, the Malaysians do, the Chinese do, the Japanese might. Gulf of Tonkin incident much? Black Swan much? An attack on one of us is an attack on all of us, right? Australia, I want nothing bad to happen to y'all. I like y'all. You guys are very, very cool. You got some damn good snipers too. Plus, you got lots of cool overlanding stuff. I want some. If if there's any rich Australians out there, send me some cool overlanding stuff. Just because I'm cool, you're cool. Let's do this thing. But I could see in my mind a scenario where Chinese aggression towards Australia becomes the impetus for the United States to get involved militarily. Just take that, put it on the back burner, think about it. Federal officials are now considering the possibility of federal hate crime charges in the case of Ahmaud Arbery, a black man who was reportedly shot and killed by a white father and son a few miles from his home while out running. Demonstrators have protested outside the Capitol building, and racial tensions have been renewed in this already tense time. Okay, so this is, of course, indicative of civil unrest. However, I will be the first to tell you that I don't have enough details on this case. I know very little of what happened here. Allegedly, this guy was out for a jog, and allegedly the neighborhood that he was jogging in had had a rash of break-ins during the recent past in the time frame that this guy was jogging through it. And allegedly, some lady made a phone call to either the police, and this is me getting the details wrong, so this is why I'm not ready to pontificate deeply on this subject. But she made a phone call, either to the police and or to a local off-duty police officer / former police officer / something, this guy and his son. And they showed up in pickup trucks with guns. The guy took off running, and they got out, chased him down. A struggle ensued, and a gun went off. I believe it was the gun that the son was holding, not the father. This guy was critically injured. He bled out and he died. That sucks. Those are the details I have. I'm not even nearly in a position to render judgment in one direction or the other because that's all I know. And there's a lot of scenarios that can play out in either direction. That yes, this guy should have been there. He had every right to be there. Or no, he was stealing stuff. Or yes, those guys do have the right to police their neighborhood with firearms. It's without rule of law, man. The police aren't even responding. Or no, they shouldn't have done that because of XYZ. Short answer, I don't know. I need more details. And my guess is, so does everybody else who's pontificating on this. And we'll find out if these two men who were involved in this shooting are arraigned and brought up on charges. They'll have their day in court. And I hope that the full picture, all the details come out and that a jury of their peers can render appropriate judgment in this situation. Because I have no idea the actuality of what happened. Several protesters in New York City were arrested for not wearing masks and or following other social distancing guidelines. Many are making comparisons to Nazi Germany. Tyranny. You know what's nice about The Office? There are no sheep maaing at me right now. Maa, feed me, bear. Maa. No, you're fat. You've already been fed. Maa. You don't understand. I have a disorder. Maa. No, I get it. You're meat. Shut up. 2 or more eyewitness accounts. Continuity of infrastructure and supply chains. Repeating. Processing and manufacturing slowdowns are closing, and closings are decreasing supply of goods, particularly animal products. We continue to receive reports of processing plants newly impacted by employee infections. Yeah, hundreds of per plant. Like between 400 and 700. Gosh, that is good. DisasterCoffee.com. Brought to you by the Hero Soap Company. Yummy. So this, of course, these processing plants being shut down is both an economic crisis indicator and a food shortage indicator. Not bueno, because that's hitting two columns, not just one. And a lot of these things are interconnected. And how you value each one of these points, again, I'll get to this in this standalone video I'm going to do on it, but how you value each one of these points is up to you. It's not my job to tell you how much a beef packing plant in Wisconsin being shut down affects your life. Because if you have your own cattle and you know how to butcher them, the answer is very little. If you don't have your own cattle and you don't know how to butcher them, the answer is it could be a lot, right? And so that's why I want to bring this intel to y'all and let you take it and deal with it appropriately. What's actionable for you and important for you is different than what's actionable and important for me because of the different circumstances of our existence. I hope that makes sense. So it's a bad game to engage in where Bear stands here and says, listen up, y'all need to be totally on point with this because all these processing plants are shutting down, because half of you are going, oh my God, where am I going to get steaks from? And the other half are like, shut up, Bear, I got 42 sheep in my backyard. Hey, I can see 300 head of cattle from my front porch or whatever, right? And so the applicability of this intel is up to y'all. Legal and political. Repeating, contact tracers are being recruited and trained around the country. They are expected to test, trace, and isolate people who have been infected. Don't make me scratch my beard, system. Again, Trump's recent executive order to secure the U.S. bulk power system noted attacks on the equipment could have a devastating impact on national defense, emergency services, critical infrastructure, and the economy. Additionally, the U.S. Senate Intelligence Committee warned last year that the electric grid in the U.S. could suffer the same fate as Ukrainian energy companies in 2015 and 2016 when Russian attacks left many without power. Now, we're going to camp here for a hot minute because this is a lot of things. This is the United States government. Remember, power generation and power transmission is a regulated utility. So this is government entities, federal, state, regional. This affects y'all and me, civilians. This is absolutely the system, the degradation of the system, which is an indicator that Rome is burning. This will be exacerbated by China, and there are a lot of other players in here. And the point is, I've said this 1,000 times on YouTube and on Patreon. This whole thing, all of this entire board. Let me get a marker here. Grid down. And we're going to spend just a moment here, like I said. Grid down. United States National Power Transmission Grid, and some of, not all of, but some of the primary and secondary generation sources that feed that national transmission grid, and some of the local and regional distribution grid was my bailiwick for a while. That was my job. Before I did this, before I made first aid kits, before I, raised sheep, that was my job. That's what I did. I built it, I managed it, I took care of it. It was my baby. Okay, and I've been all over 38 of the lower 48, these United States, putting up power infrastructure. And I, by no means, know even 1/10 of 1% of everything there is to know about that, but I do know something. And in fact, I was a subject matter expert on the national grid. Okay, that was my job. Grid down is all of this. Check it out. We're already having issues processing meat. If there's no power to run the plants, food shortage. Real food shortage. You want to talk about economic crisis? If there's no power, even regionally, no power. Let's say somebody sets off a series of IEDs in and around Shreveport, Louisiana. Okay, that could affect regionally large swaths of the Gulf country. That's a huge problem. Well, they have backup generators, Bear. Yes, they do have backup. They, being critical infrastructure, in some cases does have backup generation. But what happened, for example, in Panama City, Florida, after Hurricane Michael? The police officers there, and no offense to them, and the first responders there, no offense to them whatsoever, could not guarantee the safety of their people out in the field because they could not effect constant and effective communications between two or more peoples. The people in the car, the people at home base, right? Out in the field and back here at the office, they couldn't talk. It's because they couldn't talk, they couldn't send their people out into the field blind. So they didn't. They went behind their gates, they locked the gates, and they said, if you need us, we'll be over here. Y'all have fun over there. Civil unrest. Power's not on. I can't stay warm. I can't stay cool. All the food that I had in the freezer is now melting and going bad. That exacerbates food shortage. There's no more food coming. We can't pump fuel because we have no electricity to run the fuel pumps. Tyranny actual. In the wake of all of that, you should Google or ask Jeeves or whatever your preferred method of doing internet searches is, your local sheriff's department, and get on there and see what their disaster response plan is. And most of y'all, 80 to 90% of y'all, at the very top of that will say something along the lines of, this sheriff's department in a disaster or an emergency response scenario at the regional level is subject to the authority of the Department of Homeland Security. Check that out, okay? So now, the potential for tyranny actual is extremely high. Let's just say the grid's down and it's down for a good long while. What if it's a preemptive strike, Bear? Okay, it's a preemptive strike. Grid down. The system doesn't work. The government doesn't work. Civilians are losing their crap. China and others see this as an opportunity for war. Is there redundancy on a military level? Absolutely. Is there redundancy on a federal government level? Absolutely. 1/3 of all resources that are absorbed, and I'm not going to say generated because they don't make money, they take money. 1/3 of all resources that are absorbed by the federal government go directly into continuity of government. When this thing, when we wreck, how do we keep going? Okay? And so the COG plans will be popping. The Department of Defense, they know what they're doing when it comes to that. The federal government, they know what they're doing when it comes to that. There are plans in place. Then there are backups for the backups for the backups. But our ability to perform is going to be severely hampered because of grid down. Then what happens? Misinformation is going to abound on all levels. Your ability to even receive information is going to be severely hampered. You do have a local intel network, right? You did do an area study. You are networking with actual real life people, right? Because if this goes away, then what are you going to do? And then lastly, Rome will actually be burning if there is a large-scale grid down scenario. It is the number one disruptive threat. Let me repeat. It is the number one disruptive threat. Every single person within the sound of my voice, your quality of life is entirely predicated on the successful flow of electrons. And the fragility of the network of wires and poles and piers and towers and insulators and transformers and everything else that makes all that electricity flow successfully is perhaps one of the most fragile facets of the system. Imagine your life without power, just for 72 hours. And then I'm going to say this and shut up. A great exercise to do. Do this on a Friday evening. Just walk over to your main panel, your load center, your breaker box, grab the main breaker and flip that sucker off. And do not touch it again till Sunday evening or Monday morning. If y'all are preppers, prove it. Be not just hearers of these words of mine, but doers also. Go flip your main breaker off and spend 3 days without power. And then extrapolate that over days, weeks, months, years. That's how bad it is. So, I'll get off of that soapbox, but I had to take the opportunity to explain, at least in brief detail, the impacts of a grid down scenario. So the fact that there are executive orders coming from Trump securing bulk power, Senate Intelligence Committee is warning that there are more potential attacks on the grid. And make no mistake, our grid has always been targeted because it's highly strategic, right? It's instrumental in the American way of life. But These are more check boxes. These are more things to add into your threat matrix, and they matter. That one matters hugely, bigly. Believe me. A bill proposed in Pennsylvania has died after backlash from gun rights advocates. The bill would have required people to pass a background check to buy ammunition, as is the case in California and New York. Good. Good job, PA. Let's not have any tyranny, okay? Okay. Again, I don't need your permission to exist. I don't require your permission to buy these. That's stupid. Repeating, clinicians suspect COVID-19 may cause other more longer-lasting issues than previously suspected and may affect the heart, kidney, liver, and more. There are strange complications emerging in children who have had the disease, mimicking toxic shock syndrome and other rare conditions. And repeating, more waves of the outbreak are expected. According to a U.S. report, the virus will likely last at least 18 to 24 months and appears to be weakening as it mutates, a phenomenon known as Muller's ratchet. Societal in general. Repeating, global health experts are still saying that the pandemic may lead to social unrest and famine. Local famines that were on track to happen before this pandemic are now looking even more catastrophic for areas such as East Africa. We are continuing to see reports of small-time civil unrest, but some around the world fear revolutions and civil wars due to this pandemic, increasing divides between social parties and political parties and social classes. Again, both a civil unrest and a food shortage indicator here. Fiscal impact of this pandemic is now affecting emergency response in some areas. Some cities do not have the funds to clean up and repair after storm damage is incurred. Economic crisis indicator. Meat is sparsely stocked and/or rationed in stores and restaurants. Meat shortages are expected to last another month or so. In central New Jersey, the chicken aisle was covered up, meaning that it was actually covered up, not the phrase, man, it's covered up, there's chicken everywhere. No, it's physically been covered up because there's chicken nowhere. The manager said it would most likely be this way through June. Food shortage indicator. And again, as stated yesterday, my chicken aisle is covered up in that we got almost too many chickens. I'm running out of room for them. So I guess I'm just gonna have to put them in my belly. 2 men were escorted out of a Target for not wearing masks. On the way out, one turned and punched an employee, causing him to fall and break his arm. Civil unrest indicator. Now, where's the line here on freedom? Well, the business has the right to establish guidelines and/or hard and fast rules for people who are going to patronize their business. And the patron has the right to adhere to those or not adhere to those, to say, you know what, your rules are stupid, I'm not giving you my money. This, to me, is an indicator that you should vote with your dollars and vote with your feet and not go into that store if you disagree with their credos, whatever they may be. Now, I don't know the situation. I wasn't there. I can't think of a scenario where I'm like, you know what? Screw it. I'm going to brave the world and go into Target. Got to go into Target. Really need a new blender during the Coronapocalypse. I don't know. I wasn't there. I think some Targets sell food. Maybe they're just trying to buy groceries. I don't know. But it's an indicator nonetheless that people are crazy, period. People have always been crazy. People do irrational, rash, violent things all the time. But yet another indicator that they are doing these now related to the Coronapocalypse. And in that same vein, a shooting wounded 5 people at a gathering of hundreds at a Fort Worth, Texas park on Sunday. Civil unrest. I don't have any more details than that. International. During a training exercise, an Iranian warship accidentally struck another Iranian warship with a missile during an exercise, killing 19 sailors and wounding 15 others. The loss of innocent life is unfortunate. That's about all I can say about that. Training accidents happen. This is freaking wonderful, this next part. Tanzania's president, suspicious of the World Health Organization, reportedly decided to investigate whether the organization was as trustworthy and reliable as it claimed to be by sending samples of a goat, a papaya, and a quail for testing. Now let's just pause right there. I don't know what's going on in Tanzania, but it sounds like a hell of a great place to hang out. Because, like, I can think of I got 14 delicious menu items already in my head just using goat, papaya, and quail. This is awesome. Like, I think I know where my next vacation's going to be, Tanzania. Now, back to the business. All 3 samples reportedly tested positive. When the president heard the news, he reportedly confronted the World Health Organization, kicked the organization out of the country, and fired the head of the national lab as well. I can relate. That seems a lot like how Bear would run a country. Yeah, I get it. You're so good at your job, huh? The papaya had coronavirus? Oh, got it. The freaking papaya had coronavirus. Oh, all right, roger that. Get the hell out. Go. Now, discrediting the World Health Organization is something that we're probably going to see more and more of. And there's probably going to be a lot of discussion about the World Health Organization, increasing discussion about the World Health Organization being a pawn for China. This is going to further discredit the World Health Organization. That's going to help continue to build the footing for war, the case for either reparations or bullets flying between the United States and China, or, again, a proxy war between the United States and its allies and China and its allies. I don't think the United States has an appetite for all-out war with China, and I don't think that China has an appetite for all-out war with the United States, but remember, Japanese involvement in World War II was predicated upon their unsuccessful searching for resources in China prior to, and then, of course, you look at things like the Korean War, which was a proxy war, the Vietnam War, which was a proxy war. Well, we got to stop the spread of communism. I won't dive into that rabbit hole. And so we were fighting China. We just weren't fighting China in China. It's possible that we see something very similar to that again. You know, come on, The Princess Bride, and never get into a land war in Asia. Exactly. Debunking misinformation. A sincere apology from the Intel staff. A media attachment slipped past our radar during the rush to complete the large report delivered the 11th of May, which was a Monday. Sometimes the words don't work in between my brain and my face. The California letter is a piece of viral fake information. Ironically, in the brief itself, we reported against some of the details contained in the faked document. We apologize for the confusion this may have caused. We try our best to catch everything, but certainly are not perfect. Thank you for bringing it to our attention. Good job, dance monkeys. And by the way, I want to make clear that we are very dependent upon y'all to send us these intel nuggets, right? And so y'all feed the dance monkeys. The dance monkeys compile the report. They send it to the bear. Bear reads it with y'all, okay? But all this comes from y'all. So thank you. And when we get it wrong, we are happy to admit when we got it wrong, because there's so many people that are going to double down because of their ego, their pride, their whatever. That's not what we're trying to do here. We are trying to share information amongst the Bear Nation with y'all. And so if that's bad intel, everybody needs to know that it's bad intel, because that's going to affect all of this. Remember, whether you do this on a whiteboard or on a piece of scratch paper or in your mind, okay, that's going to affect all of this, your threat matrix. And so good job, dance monkeys, for catching it. Good job, y'all, for catching it and bringing it to our attention. And if we get something wrong, we'll be the first to tell you, okay? All right, more debunking misinformation. We've got The HR 6666 is a bill that will allow, the belief is a bill that will allow tracers to force you to be tested in your home. The reality is, when read carefully, the bill itself does not anywhere explicitly allow forcible testing of any kind. In fact, the bill authorizes the Secretary of Health and Human Services to award grants to entities capable of doing mobile testing. It's about legal permissions to enable the flow of money. So it's about funding people who will do the testing. Now, those people who are doing the testing might find themselves in a position where they are trying to force you to be tested in your home, in which case I would say, don't get all trespassy, bro. I got this little thing right here. Y'all might have seen one of these before. The no step on sneck. Yeah, no step on sneck. No step on sneck. I got one of these over here too, and that still means something to some of us. No step on sneck. The CARES Act for the coronavirus, which was passed by the Senate in March 2020, this is the belief, is the same as the bill introduced in January 2019 and passed in the House in July 29. They knew about it, 2019. They knew about it a year prior. Everything, this whole thing was planned, man. The reality is the initial bill that first passed the House did not mention coronavirus, COVID-19, pandemic, or virus even once in its entirety. The Senate heavily amended it to react to the coronavirus, had the House approve the changes, and then passed it. This sped up the process. While it is technically the same bill number, it is not the same content. Good job, monkeys. So, if you'd like to tell the monkeys good job, you can email them at intel@bearindependent.com. Intel@bearindependent.com. There's how many A's in the word independent? That's right, 0 A's in the word independent. Intel@bearindependent.com. You'd be amazed at how many emails we get. We're like, Bear, I tried to email your people and I got nothing. I'm like, well, what email did you send it to? And it's like, intel@BAREINDAHPQRLMNOPDENANT!!! And I'm like, that's not how you spell Bear Independent, but good try. But good try. So, gold sticker for you. Come on, thumbs. Do the thumb things. All right, actionable. If you cannot acquire a freezer for meat, remember that pressure canning is an option. If you need rice, one viewer has noted that Asian supply stores seem to still have some. Got an itchy nose now. If you need medical supplies, check out midwife companies as well as veterinarian companies. Depending on what medical supplies you need, you might check out bearindependent.com, which is spelled the same way that I just told you. Yeah, BEAR, independent with 0 A's.com. For all your high-speed first aid kits. In fact, we're at the office. I'll show you guys real quick. Look at this. Look at this. So these boxes, it's all stuff that I got to make today. So you see that? That's all stuff I got to make today. These are all pouches that got to get filled. That's a bear. Granny Pucky gave me that bear. It's awesome. And those are my drums, for those of y'all that don't know. Yeah, that's right. Check that out. Yeah. I'll just act like a rock star. I am one. At least I like to lie to myself and tell me I am. And the Patriot Plumber gave me that. That was done with a 357. How cool is that? Look at that. Super cool. Done with a 357, man. Awesome. Let's come back over here. All right. All right, a little behind the scenes action for you. But yeah, bearindependent.com, you can get your first aid kits. We have a bunch of orders to fill. We're filling a bunch of orders today. I'm going to try and get about 70 kits out the door today. So bless y'all and thank you everybody who's been patronizing us. We really appreciate you. We got like 10 households that are eating in part or in full off of what we're doing here. So thank you. Blowout kits, trauma kits, med kits. You can also get that stuff from adventurefrontier.com. They sell armor. Armor's awesome unless you're being stalked by an A10, in which case armor don't matter. But if you're not being stalked by an A10, you can get Spartan armor from Adventure Frontier and get yourself a bare minimum to hang off of it while you're there. I am parched, man. Hydrate! You can also, well, you're all sweaty and dirty running from that A-10 that's stalking you at 3 o'clock in the morning. And for whatever reason, that 30 millimeter cannon is just not finding its target, and you somehow manage to survive, right? Here's the scenario. You somehow manage to survive, and you bust into the safe house, and you rip your plate carrier off. Maybe you've covered yourself in mud, like Arnold in Predator, right? Yeah, in Predator? That's what I'm talking about. Yeah, Predator. Cover yourself in mud, and you're just, now your heat signature's not getting out there, and you're like, I smell terrible, I'm covered in mud. For some reason, I'm being chased by an A-10, but the grid isn't down, so the water's still flowing. I gotta take a shower, man. What do? Wash your dirty nuts with Hero Soap Company soap. Stuff's really good. It's veteran-owned company, goat's milk soap with essential oils in it at an affordable price. You can use promo code BEAR. That's how they know you like a stupid show. But you know, that way you can get all the twigs and get all the mud out of your orifices and, you know, live to fight the predator another day and smell delicious while you're doing it. So, herosoapcompany.com. Nothing like a little Hefeweizen first thing in the morning, you know? No, it was coffee. Simmer down. I'm joking. If you cannot acquire a freezer for meat, remember that pressure canning is an option. We talked about that. Buy rice from Asians. We talked about that. That sounded terrible. Asian supply stores is what I meant to say. Medical supplies. Get them from places. Plant your pantry. Dry beans, seeds found inside of ripe vegetables, tomatoes, potatoes that have been left to sprout, so forth and so on. Again, the entirety of this report is available on Patreon. Silver linings. One family used their Trump bucks to fund a pressure canner, water bath canner, jars, and supplies. That's a good use of that money. They are saving money each month towards leaving Babylon. Bless y'all. That's awesome. Next point. Bear, quote, Bear, I just wanted to thank you for the service you are providing. I have been a follower of Pastor Joe Fox of Viking Preparedness. Awesome guy. You should check him out. Viking Preparedness. I have been a follower of Pastor Joe for quite a while and naturally found your channel through him. I admit that joining Patreon was a bit of a hurdle for me, but now I am thankful that I have. My wife and I watch your daily briefs and follow your homesteading tips. Thank you for joining Patreon, by the way. Patreon is the economic engine that powers the Bear Nation. So let's just get that out there. YouTube hates our guts. We hate their guts back. We constantly fight in the algorithm. They don't promote our stuff. They half the time don't pay us, and it costs us money half the time. Costs us money half the time to be on YouTube to do this for free. And so Patreon is what allows this to exist in the first place. I've said it before, and I mean it. If we didn't have Patreon, we would not do this. So thank you, brother, for supporting us on Patreon. My wife and I watch your daily briefs and follow your homesteading tips. We have been preppers in name only for many years, but thanks to the Father, your videos, and COVID-19, we now have our first garden and 36 chickens. All praise to the Most High. That is awesome. I'm in the process of securing beef for the fall, and Lord willing, we will have a calf of our own by winter. Just wanted to say thanks for the motivation and God bless. Awesome, man. A viewer found that there was definitely a shortage of freezers, but it appears that there are a number of people buying the stock freezers from closed restaurants and reselling them. He got an 11 cubic foot freezer for half the price of a smaller, newer one. Quote, it chills great to -20. Praise Yahuwah, end quote. That's awesome. Also, thank you for addressing us as the most venerable dance monkeys. Extra cookies for you. That's from the Dance Monkeys. So good for you, brother. You got a deep freeze and extra cookies. The Dance Monkeys very rarely give cookies back. Like, it's everything you can do to keep your fingers when you insert one into the cage. So the fact that they're actually giving a cookie back to you, that's incredible, man. You're like some kind of superhero, I guess. A trucker got some vegetables planted in containers to help with fresh veggies. Her elderly parents can water the seeds and take care of them while she is on the road. Amen. That is awesome. My family, quote, my family and I are blessed by God every day. I work a construction job in Central Texas and have been given the opportunity to work from home. Construction is not the type of work where you can work from home. My employer has allowed me to be at home with my family through the pandemic. In the last few months, my son and I have planted a large garden and are currently working on a 12 by 20 chicken coop. That's a good sized chicken coop, bro. I dug up the wife's rose garden and planted a garden there as well. I listen to the YouTube channel daily and I thank y'all again for what you do. Bless you, brother. That's awesome and good on your employer, man. I'm a little familiar with Central Texas. Y'all have got the Heb down there, the HEB. They have the best chili seasoning that I know of. Williams is a good second on chili seasoning, but the HEB, just stock off the shelf chili seasoning, man, that's good stuff. I bet you if I wanted, I could probably order some of that off their website and get it delivered and add that to my prepper pantry. It's really good. Got a list of useful resources here, which are available on Patreon. Again, the entirety of this report is on Patreon. We upload this the night before, along with all the supporting pics and documents the night before on Patreon. So you 12 hours, 16 hours ahead of the curve on Patreon. And then we do this live every day here. Notes: the place for all websites and resources related to food acquisition is on the forums. Check them out on bearindependent.com. Again, the forums, really. If y'all think that I can keep track of, hey, Bear, where can I find a bottle calf to raise in western Oklahoma? I have no idea, man. But somebody on the forums probably does. And or whatever. Grindstone is still looking for an attorney and a grant writer. So if you are an attorney or a grant writer and you want to be involved in us helping badasses who rescue victims of human trafficking and sex crimes, then you should email us. November Tango X-Ray Mike Alpha Golf @gmail.com. Subject line Grindstone. To support Grindstone, you can buy a raffle ticket at the Bear Independent store for a ridiculously awesome raffle that includes a handmade, made in America chest rig. Handmade, made in America chest rig from UW Gear Incorporated. A bare minimum kit, both of these are in multicam, bare minimum blowout kit. An awesome handmade bushcraft knife from Fleming's Fabrications. An Amendment 1 Preparedness 30 caliber canned ham radio can. A swag bag from Sanctified Supply Company with hats and t-shirts and other cute stuff in it. A bundle of disastercoffee.com coffee, which is freaking delicious. A bar of Hero soap. I think there's 2 bars of Hero soap in there now. And a bunch of stickers and patches from Bear, all for $5. You will get an actual raffle ticket in the mail, or 10 or 20 or 100 if you buy 100 of them. And all that money will be used to help fund our operations to assist in the recovery and rehabilitation of victims of human trafficking and sex crimes. I've given you all the spiel before. I would just love it if you'd prayerfully consider supporting Grindstone, grindstoneministries.com. You can also support disastercoffee.com. Great coffee. The whole reason they exist is to generate funds which can then be deployed, that profit can then be deployed to assist nonprofits, including ours, which is awesome. I've talked to the guy on the phone, good dude. I like how the Dance Monkeys have worded this. To support Grindstone Ministries and battle disaster recovery, drink a cup of coffee at disastercoffee.com or get dressed at sanctifiedsupplyco.com. Or get prepared with Amendment 1 Preparedness.com. That's it, y'all. That's it. You know, email your tasty nuggets to the Dance Monkeys, intel@bearindependent.com. Check us out on Patreon, patreon.com. Search for Bear Independent. Prayerfully consider supporting a small business, ours or anybody else's. If you've paid your bills, you're paying down your debt, you got food in your pantry, and you planted food into the ground, and you still have some money left over, please support a small business. ours or anybody else's. But as I've stated repeatedly, Jeff Bezos is still going to be a rich MFer when this thing is over. A lot of people might not have houses. A lot of people are wondering how they're going to buy their kids those new shoes that they need because there's holes in the ones that they got, or how am I going to get food into this pantry, or how am I going to make my car payment, or whatever, right? Support a small business, for real. They need it desperately during this time. So if you have the revenue to deploy, please consider deploying it in the direction of a small business. What have we done since last we talked? We packed and shipped bare facts. We recorded content. We worked on the range that's going in on the backside of our property. Had men's group Monday on Patreon last night in the book of Acts, chapters 2 and 3. Recorded a podcast in Isaiah 17 yesterday morning. And hung out with my wife. Hung out with my kids a little bit. Ate some delicious dinner. Went to sleep and got up and did it all over again. It's up at 4:24 this morning, so I could come here and play my drums uninterrupted for 90 minutes and then hang out with y'all. So, with that, let us pray. Father Yahuwah, thank you for an awesome day. Thank you for an awesome life. Thank you for extending the opportunity for life to us and for teaching us how to live this life. Thank you for redemption and restoration for us broken people through Yeshua HaMashiach, that we might find our way back to you. Father, thank you for liberty. Thank you for the freedom to do what you've called us to do. Father, I pray that you'd continue to convict us in that direction, that we would protect what we have and regain what we've lost. Father, thank you for such a prosperous nation that even in the midst of a global pandemic, we can still pursue our happiness. Father, and I pray with this life and this liberty, and with this pursuit of happiness, we honor you, that our actions glorify you, that our words point to you, that our soul belongs to you, that our will is in line with you. Father, if there's anything within the sound of my voice that's not of you, I rebuke it in the name of Yeshua HaMashiach. Command it to flee. I pray that you'd fill us up with your Ruach HaKodesh, your Holy Spirit, that we would be indwelt with you today, that you would guide us, that you would point us in the right direction, that you would crushingly convict us to do your will, that you'd speak to us in languages that we can understand, that you would put your hand on all the fear, the anxiety, the uncertainty, the pain, the hate, the hurt, the brokenness, the shame, that you'd minister to that, that you'd heal it. Be it your will right this red hot minute, that you'd heal it, that you'd just remove that from us, that you'd take it. It's not ours, it belongs to you. So Father, please just take it. Father, I pray your blessings on everybody within the sound of my voice. And I thank you humbly for using busted up pieces of garbage like me to do your will. And I ask these things in the mighty name of Yeshua HaMashiach. Amen. Have a great day.